Right now at 6, a Pittsburgh murder suspect is behind bars after he's discovered hiding in an attic.
And we've got a cold start to our Friday across the 4 states. If you're shopping or just going to work, make sure you're bundled up. We got to look at that forecast, get you out the door. Coming up.
Plus, the Salvation Army in Joplin sets the table for a free Thanksgiving Day dinner for the community.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. At 6 a.m., I'm Samantha Walker.
And I'm Chris Warner. It is a finally Friday in the 4 states, November 29th. And some of you, it's just another work day. Others, it's a big shopping day. Our very own Shannon Becker's been out. We'll have some reports from him, I'm sure, a little later, but he's been out at some of the stores opening early this morning.
Yeah.
There are some brave people out there in the freezing cold.
You couldn't catch me there. I didn't even want to scrape my car this morning. It was so
I
cold.
did not either. So, I do not like it. But there are people willing to brave the cold for some good deals. And if you are, again, hopefully you're bundled up. If you haven't left it yet, make sure you do grab a nice coat on your way out the door. Let's take a look outside. First with our camera in downtown Pittsburgh. We've got clear skies. We're looking pretty good on Broadway there. Roads are also pretty good. We don't have any precipitation expected today, which is fantastic news. MoDOT camera 20th in Rangeline. Still not overly busy yet, but again, that is very likely to start to change as the morning progresses, but probably going to get a little busier a little earlier than we're used to since, it's a big shopping day out there. Future track into this afternoon. You can see by noon, most of us hanging out in the 30s, some low 40s in our southern counties. We'll have a light and variable wind. I think all of us should at least briefly make highs this afternoon into the low 40s, and then temperatures are going to cool back down again into the 30s. But winds will start picking up out of the south late this evening and overnight. And even though we're not really going to feel the warmer air, it will slow the temperatures as they drop overnight. So we won't be quite as cold in most locations overnight tonight into tomorrow. 23 in both Joplin and Pittsburgh right now, and across the area, temperatures again on the cold side. 20 in Fort Scott right now. That is our cold spot, getting close to falling back into the teens. And the rest of us, for the most part, low mid-20s out there. In the warm spot right now, back up Cassville and Sedan, both sitting at 26. As we go through the day again, clear skies out there, light and variable winds. They won't start picking up until much later this evening, and at least brief highs in the low 40s before we fall back into 30s. So if you think about 80 to 85% of today, 30-degree readings is what we're going to see out there. We're going to start to warm up a little tomorrow, then we cool back down, then we really warm up into the first week of December. Details on all that in the full forecast here in just a few more minutes. Samantha?
Thanks, Chris. Police investigate a Wednesday night homicide in Pittsburgh. It happened just before 11 p.m. on 11 Hunters block of South Elm Street. That's where officers found a 29-year-old man, Fedor Lee Warren Lomax, suffering from gunshot wounds inside one of the apartments. He was taken to Mercy Hospital, where he later died. Officers tracked the shooter to a home on the 300 block of East Park Street. After obtaining a search warrant, they entered the residence and found 26-year-old Kevin Holkill hiding in the attic. Police arrested Holkill on an outstanding Crawford County felony warrant for failing to appear on a previous drug charge. He's now facing second-degree murder charges, felony interference with law enforcement, and felon in possession of a firearm. Holkill is currently being held without bail at the Crawford County Jail. Authorities respond to an overturned truck on Interstate 49 Wednesday. The incident happened around 10 a.m. in Lamar, Missouri. The crash involved an overturned cement mixer. Initially, both lanes were blocked and cement had to be washed from the road. Despite being transported to an area hospital, troopers say the female driver was alert and communicating. On Wednesday afternoon, authorities responded to reports of a crash near Douglas Fir Road in Newton County, Missouri. Authorities arrived to find a car flipped over on its roof in a runoff creek. The driver was the only one in the car and was not injured. To be the first to see breaking news, weather, and sports, download the KOAM News app. It's available free of charge in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. Just search for the KOAM News app. The Salvation Army of Jasper and Newton County continued their tradition of providing a free meal on Thanksgiving Day to those in need. KOAM's Melissa Alexis spoke to some volunteers who helped make the event possible.
Spend time with them and the holidays with them and let them know that they're loved and they're cared for.
Over 100 volunteers committed their Thanksgiving Day to serving others at the Salvation Army of Jasper and Newton County.
We look forward to this every single year. It's just an honor and a blessing.
Cassandra Miller and her family volunteered together.
And the kids always look so excited that's their thing that they look forward to, probably more than presents.
And they've made it an annual tradition to volunteer at the Salvation Army every Thanksgiving.
My whole family is here. There's 10 of us. And so we are doing pie and we're serving and we're doing dishes.
It's a chance for her to give back and help others, the same way the Salvation Army helped her when she was in need.
My daughter was born here, and then for the past 10 years, we've chosen to come back and serve every day to give back to the people who gave to me.
Captain Deb Middendorp says the volunteers help make it all possible.
It warms my heart just to have all these volunteers come together, give up their time on a holiday to make this happen.
Miller is looking forward to coming back this Christmas to volunteer again.
I know it joys my heart, so I'm sure it joys theirs as well.
Reporting in Joplin, Melissa Alexis, KOAM News.
The Salvation Army served more than 500 Thanksgiving meals yesterday. That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News. The Federal Trade Commission votes to make changes to rules for technical support scams. Plus, President-elect Trump is getting pushback on his threat to enact new tariffs. And Chris Warner returns with another look at your Friday forecast. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back with first, here's a look at Kohl's in Joplin during this Black Friday. Topping Nation Watch this morning. The Federal Trade Commission has finalized changes to its telemarketing sales rules for tech support phone scams. This will extend the rules' coverage and make it easier to protect consumers who are tricked into paying scam technical support companies. The changes will include calls made by consumers to companies pitching technical support services through advertisements or direct mail solicitations. The FTC said older consumers over the age of 60 were 5 times more likely to be victims of these scams. Last year, they collectively reported more than $175 million in losses. Razor wire put up by the state of Texas along the Mexico border cannot be taken down by the Biden administration. That comes from a ruling by a federal appeals court on Wednesday. It's the latest legal development over the issue of when federal authority can supersede immigration enforcement by a state. Texas sued the Biden administration more than a year ago when border agents began cutting down the razor wire. It followed the state's move to install the wire in its efforts to prevent border crossings. The U.S. Supreme Court in January sided with the administration to allow removal of the wire, but the issue was returned to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Wednesday's ruling went against the administration's arguments that the federal government has sovereign immunity to prohibit the lawsuit. President-elect Donald Trump is getting pushback on his threat to enact new tariffs against America's closest allies. Yesterday, President Biden told reporters the move would be counterproductive. This also comes as the president of Mexico is also clarifying Mr. Trump's account of their phone call earlier this week. Wendy Gillette has more from New York.
While visiting a Nantucket firehouse on Thanksgiving, President Biden weighed in on President-elect Donald Trump's threat to levy new tariffs on exports from Mexico and Canada.
I hope he rethinks it. I think it's a counterproductive thing to do. We're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and 2 allies, Mexico and Canada. And the last thing we need to do is begin to screw up those relationships.
Trump, who spent the Thanksgiving holiday in Mar-a-Lago, made the threat days ago on social media, vowing to add a 25% tariff on all goods from the U.S.'s closest neighbors, as well as an extra 10% tariff on exports from China, unless the three nations do more to stop the flow of illegal drugs and migrants into the U.S. Meanwhile, Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum is pushing back on Trump's account of a productive phone call they had on Wednesday. The president-elect had posted after the call, quote, "She has agreed to stop migration through Mexico and into the United States, effectively closing our southern border." Yesterday, Sheinbaum clarified on Twitter that Mexico will stop so-called migrant caravans before they reach the border, while emphasizing Mexico's position is not to close borders, but to build bridges between governments and between peoples. In a news conference yesterday, Sheinbaum said the two did not discuss tariffs in their call. Earlier this week, she said Mexico may take retaliatory actions should Trump make good on his threat. Wendy Gillette, CBS News.
We have learned that Canada is also exploring ways to retaliate should President-elect Trump go through with his warnings on the new tariffs. That's a look at some of today's top national stories. Here's Chris with a look at your forecast.
And we're starting with Skywatch Storm Tracker. Nothing out there, nor will there be as we head through today. The only thing we're going to deal with is cold temperatures. Right now, 7th and Rangeline skies are clear, looking pretty good. We will eventually make highs into the low 40s. We're going to spend most of this day, though, in the 30s. Well, I'm there to look at your forecast here in just a few more minutes on the KOAM Morning News. Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News. It is now 6:19 and it is now in black and white. Stunning, out of focus black and white. I love when that camera does that. Well, what we're looking at, though, checking some traffic data. We're starting to see traffic pick up this morning in Joplin as people head out for that Black Friday shopping. MoDOT camera, 20th and Rangeline. We'll head there. It is functioning. We're starting to, again, a few more cars out there. And just a few minutes ago, we had a pretty good line of them start. In fact, here they come now over the bridge there on your way to 32nd Street. And down by 32nd and Rangeline again, it's cleared up a little out there, but we're still watching cars continue to increase across the region. So if you haven't started your Black Friday shopping yet, just be prepared, because for 6:19 in the morning, doesn't look like a lot, but there's a few more cars than we typically see at this time of day. It's also quite cold, so if you again haven't made it outside yet, then you need to bundle up before you do so, okay? Because it's going to be cold. Now, Shannon Becker has been out at some of the stores around the area this morning. There have already been people waiting in lines. I feel like some of them aren't as long as they typically would be, probably because people realized it was going to be cold, and they're like, yeah, you know what? Those deals will still be there at 9 a.m., won't they? They will. They certainly will. But still, cold. We're going to spend about 80 to 85% of this day into the 30s. We will eventually reach highs across the area into the low 40s. And I think just about all of us should make the low 40s, albeit briefly in some places. But we should at least reach the low 40s, and we're going to start falling back through the 30s. Now, winds today are going to be light and variable. And I mentioned the winds because late this evening and overnight, they're going to ramp up out of the south. We're also going to see some clouds increase out there. So we're going to start going partly cloudy late evening and into the overnight hours. Now, the winds out of the south bring in warmer air. Now, we're not really going to notice the warmer air too much, but most of us are going to be starting tomorrow anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees warmer than where we are now. The winds, the southerly winds and that warmer air will simply slow down temperatures dropping tonight. And then once the clouds start to roll in, kind of holds them in place for us. Now, yeah, that's snow. I know it matches this color. It is snow. It is not a major concern. I'm going to tell you about that. So we're looking early tomorrow morning. We could see some isolated showers in our very far northern counties, all right? Now you can see on Future Track, the communities immediately south of this snow are above freezing. I think at this point the expectation is all of our locations will be above freezing, so whatever falls should be rain, but regardless of what does fall, it is going to be brief, and it shouldn't add up to much of anything. But just a heads up, we could see some maybe light snow, but I think it's more likely we're going to see some light showers. Now, winds tomorrow will be out of the south-southwest, gusting upwards of 30, and then they're going to switch out of the northwest as we head later into the afternoon and evening hours out there, and that's going to make us cold again. So it'll be warmer tomorrow, but we will chill back down as we go Saturday night into Sunday. Now, Sunday morning, Looking to start mostly cloudy, cold, back into the 20s for most of us. And we'll head into the afternoon. We'll have partly cloudy skies out there. It'll be very similar to today, where we'll spend most of the day into the 30s, but we will eventually get into the 40s and maybe even some upper 40s in our far southern counties on Sunday. All right. Again, our camera 7th in range line. It has corrected the black and white mode. Still looking good. There's a few more cars out there, but nothing too crazy yet. 23 is where we're sitting at in Joplin, and across the area, 20s are the commonplace. We've got 20, though, in Fort Scott, and that is the cool spot. And a quick glance here, it looks like the warm spot back to Cassville again at 26 degrees, but all of us pretty darn cold. Sunny skies, they'll be deceiving. It will look warmer than what it really is, but we'll be mid-20s to start, upper 30s by 11 o'clock this morning. Again, ahead of highs eventually in the low 40s by this afternoon. And we'll have those light and variable winds for us. And we head into the overnight hours, skies, and again, initially clear through the evening. And see, this is what I'm talking about. As those winds after 7 or 8 start picking up out of the south, temperature drop slows down. It's still cold, but it's not dropping as fast. And we'll start to go partly cloudy overnight back around 30. Breezy again tomorrow. Again, maybe that stray shower or two. Highs right about 50. Then we're cooler again on Sunday and Monday. And then I'm not sure if Mother Nature is aware of this. Now, Grant, I told you, I don't like the cold. I'm fine with this. But this is the first week of December we're coming up into. And we're looking at temperatures well above normal next week. Yeah, not every day, but most days. Look at that. Upper 50s, low 60s. And if this pattern holds, look at next Sunday. Not this coming Sunday, but the next one. Highs pushing near 70 degrees in December. I don't like that. That's always a little eerie. It's not a very good sign. Hopefully it's just some rain and everything's going to be fine, but still a warm week next week. That is a check of your forecast. Now we're going to send things over to Samantha with Health Watch.
Thanks, Chris. Topping Health Watch this morning. Researchers are learning misinformation spreads faster than facts on social media. A study by the American Association for the Advancement of Science found misinformation evokes more moral outrage than trustworthy information. That outrage leads to people sharing false stories on social media, often without reading them or checking them for accuracy. Black athletes are 5 times more likely to experience sudden cardiac arrest and death than white athletes. A review of data by the Emory Health Sciences found health disparities may be caused by differences in economic stability, proximity to healthcare facilities, discrimination, and access to health information. Sudden cardiac arrest is a leading cause of death for young athletes, although rates appear to be on the decline. People with HIV will now be able to receive donated organs from other HIV patients. The new rule was announced Tuesday by U.S. health officials. This comes after years of research showed HIV-positive patients had similar survival rates, whether they received organs from other positive patients or from donors without HIV. The change should shorten the wait for people on the transplant list. Imagine never having a moment of silence. Nearly 20 million Americans experience tinnitus, or a ringing in the ear. A small subset has what's called pulsatile tinnitus, hearing the sound of their own heartbeat. Michael George introduces us to one patient who'd heard enough.
It almost sounded like I was hearing my heartbeat in my left ear.
Medical assistant Dana Pulciani didn't get a good night's sleep for 13 months, with a constant sound tormenting her.
The only relief that I would ever get is if I actually put my finger on my carotid to stop the noise.
A brain MRI and CT scans revealed a narrowing of the artery in Pulciani's brain and a tiny aneurysm. She was ultimately diagnosed with an uncommon version of tinnitus called pulsatile tinnitus.
If that narrowed segment is very close to the base of skull, that noise can get transmitted to our ears.
Dr. Ali Shaybani is an interventional neuroradiologist at Northwestern Medicine. He says once dangerous causes are ruled out, the main driver for surgery is the patient's quality of life. For Pulciani, there was a clear tipping point.
One night, around probably 2 or 3 in the morning, I could not sleep. The noise literally kept me up the entire night. And I charted Dr. Shabani that night, and I said, when is the next surgery date.
She had surgery last November, going in through the groin to place 2 stents in her brain.
It relieves the narrowing, so it takes away that part of the equation that creates this whistling or whooshing noise.
Honestly, the noise was gone the minute I woke up from surgery. It was almost like getting my life back again.
Pulciani will remain on blood thinners for another 6 months and will have follow-ups to make sure the stents are working. Michael George, CBS News.
It's estimated nearly 5 million Americans have pulsatile tinnitus. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. We'll be right back. Right now at 6:30, community members came together to kick off Thanksgiving with the annual Joplin Turkey Trot.
And we have a beautiful but cold start to the day out there. You can see that sun rising. Looks great. Temperatures not so great though. Look at that forecast. Get you out the doors. Coming up.
Plus, the city of Pittsburgh served up its annual community Thanksgiving dinner to ensure no one was alone this holiday season.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Samantha Walker.
And I'm Chris Warner. It is Black Friday, finally Friday, however else you may want to paint it. It's November the 29th, though, for those keeping score at home. And it is cold outside.
Yes, I did not want to scrape my car this morning.
I didn't want to just, I was this close to just saying, you know what, I'm too sick to make it in today because it's too cold to go outside. But you know that you can't do that. That's not the good way to go.
We're glad you braved the weather.
Like it's really all that bad. It's just cold. And you folks that don't know, I've told you 100 times I do not like the cold. But that's okay. It's wintertime. Got to deal with it. And so we're going to deal with it. Let's start outside our camera, downtown Pittsburgh again, looking at that absolutely gorgeous sunrise. Hello, how you doing? Good to see y'all there. Hopefully you're having a good time. Maybe some of you are like in line shopping or at shopping right now and you're watching us on KOAM Plus. The advantages of modern technology. You can take us anywhere you go. Looks great though. 7th and Range. Oh, sorry. This is not in the right spot in my head this morning. MoDOT camera 20th and Rangeline. This is what I'm talking about. They're all coming in from the south, but look at all these cars. I know it doesn't seem like a lot right now, but for this time of day on Rangeline, this is quite a few cars out there this morning, and again, that's probably going to continue to increase out there. On to the future track this afternoon, we're going to have light and variable winds. We all should eventually, at least briefly, reach highs into the low 40s. Before temperatures start falling back down into the 30s. Now, later this evening, winds are going to shift out of the south, and that will actually slow down the temperature drop as we head into the overnight hours. We're sitting at 23 in Joplin as well as Pittsburgh right now, and across the area, we're all hanging out in the 20s. 20 in Fort Scott as the cold spot, and still at this point, Cassville, the warm spot at 26 degrees. As we go again through today, light and variable winds, clear skies. We'll spend most of this day in the 30s, but by this afternoon, we'll at least briefly reach up into the low 40s out there. You're going to get breezy tonight and tomorrow. It's going to be a little warmer tomorrow and then much warmer by next week. Details in the full forecast coming up here in a few more minutes. Samantha?
Thanks, Chris. It was a chilly start to the holiday in Joplin yesterday morning with the annual Joplin Turkey Trot. Area runners came out to the event in downtown Joplin for a 1-mile walk and run at 7:30 a.m. and then a 5K walk or run at 8. The certified 5K course began and ended at the front doors of the Joplin City Hall. All participants received an event shirt and a finisher medal. Participants say the event serves as a great way to celebrate the holiday.
I think it's a great thing for Joplin as far as camaraderie goes. This is a really big event, thousands of people out here, and so really enjoy doing this with family and friends.
The event also featured a professional DJ, Krispy Kreme donuts, and Bearded Lady coffee. This marks the 13th year for the event. Many places in our area opened their doors to the community yesterday. The city of Pittsburgh served up its annual community Thanksgiving dinner at the St. John Lutheran Church. The event provides a place for the community to gather so no one needs to be alone for the holiday. This year marks the 40th year to provide a Thanksgiving dinner to the community.
For a number of years is because this dinner is put on, it's done by a lot of volunteers and different organizations that donate food and time and money to make this happen for people in the community, and it's not a needs-based meal. This is started 40 years ago to provide a place so that people don't have to be alone on the holiday.
The dinner brought out a number of volunteers who wanted to give something back to the community. The veterans at VFW Post 1372 in Columbus, Kansas, opened their doors to the community for the holiday as well. The Post hosted a free Thanksgiving dinner for members and guests. The event served as a great way to support veterans and their families, as well as celebrating the holiday in a way the Post hasn't done in a while.
I don't have any idea how many is going to be here, but we prepared for around 70. And tomorrow's the Chiefs game. So what's left over, we'll have people in here for the Chiefs game, so it'll get used.
The Post is located at 137 Southeast Avenue in Columbus. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Sun-fed cucumbers are being recalled due to possible salmonella contamination. And we have a cool and sunny day today. We'll have what to expect with Chris Warner in the Skywatch Weather Center. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back, but first, here's a look at JCPenney's in Joplin during this Black Friday. In Consumer Watch this morning. This is quite the week for advocates who want to keep children and teens off social media. 2 new bans seek to curb the dangers it can pose to young people. One restricts beauty filters. The other is an Australian law outright taking away social media from anyone under 16 years old. Amy Kiley has more.
Parents everywhere are worried sick.
Efforts to protect children from the dangers of social media are ramping up. Australia is now the first country in the world to ban users under the age of 16. Its new law will fine companies that don't take, quote, reasonable steps to enforce the restriction.
I think this Australia law could be really instructive for many other parts of the world who are looking at how to address this issue.
Passage of the law follows several high-profile youth suicides.
I think this is a really brave, bold step. Our children are not the product. They're not something that can be manipulated.
Critics point out some children and teens use social media to connect with support systems. Others say tech companies don't have the tools to enforce the law.
Initially, there was going to be a trial of so-called age verification software in Australia, which piqued my interest because, to my knowledge, none of that actually exists.
The Australia ban comes as TikTok says it's restricting how minors use beauty filters. A lawsuit from 14 U.S. attorneys general alleges they encourage unhealthy comparisons.
That platform provides users with filters and effects that can be used to dramatically alter one's appearance and foster unrealistic beauty standards. This is particularly harmful to the platform's users, especially young girls.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
A recall has been issued for Sun-fed whole cucumbers, which were distributed to 26 states and Canada due to possible salmonella contamination. The Food and Drug Administration says the recalled products were sold between October 12th and November 26th. An FDA posting says there were illnesses reported, but did not specify how many. Consumers with the produce are urged to throw them away or return it to the place of purchase. The National Retail Federation estimates 183 million people will shop over this holiday weekend, with Americans projected to spend up to $989 billion by the end of the holiday season. A survey conducted by the retail group shows that consumers are expected to spend an average of $902 per person on gifts, while another survey from Gallup found that number to be just over $1,000 per person. And good news for the Swifties shopping today. Taylor Swift's latest release, a book chronicling her billion-dollar Eras tour, hits shelves today, sold exclusively by Target. The book will be available for online sales at the store's website tomorrow, retailing for just under $40. In Maine, one man is being rewarded for his love of his favorite restaurant after accruing thousands of loyalty points. He's a huge fan of Chick-fil-A and visits a location in Bangor more than most. Will Wagner has more.
My wife and I are both workaholics. We work long hours, and neither of us cook. So we came to Chick-fil-A once, and we just loved it.
Come in here most days, and sometimes even multiple times in a day. And so Craig has been one of our very favorite guests. We literally see him, I think, pretty much every day.
Craig Mason and his family visit the Bangor Chick-fil-A a lot.
For us, it's a great way to eat healthy. I mean, I love their grilled chicken salads. Are just fantastic, and it's become just kind of a central part of our day-to-day life.
Mason made his first visit to the Bangor Chick-fil-A about a year after it first opened in 2016. A year later, he downloaded their app. Since then, he's used hundreds of thousands of loyalty points on his orders, over 500,000 to be exact.
There's like annual recognition that you can earn levels, and when we started noticing that by the end of January, it already had all the points to reach the maximum level for the year. That was kind of a sign that we must be coming here a lot.
By accruing 500,000 points, Mason has joined a club of less than 200 very loyal Chick-fil-A customers.
He's like, hey, I'm approaching 500,000 points. And I was like, well, you got to be kidding me. And so sure enough, I went into our systems, and he was. And I was like, well, we have to do something to recognize him. He
and his wife were invited to the restaurant Monday, where they were presented with a plaque. He tells us he hung it in his home office, where he spends a lot of time working as a professor.
It's funny. I've kind of often wondered about getting recognition for my research or scholarship. I never thought it would be for eating chicken.
Mason says the food, but also the friendly service, is a big reason why he and his family keep coming back.
The food, like I said, the salads, the sandwiches, their peppermint milkshakes are like Christmas in a cup. But it's the people.
Among fast food restaurants, Chick-fil-A is again this year leads the ranking of the American Customer Satisfaction Index. That's it for Consumer Watch. Here's Chris with another look at your forecast.
Yeah, we're going to start with a quick look outside from downtown Pittsburgh. The sun is rising. It looks fantastic out there. Skies are clear. The temperatures, on the other hand, a bit on the cold side. Taking a look from the MoDOT camera, 20th and Rangeline in Joplin. Again, not too bad as of yet, but as we get a little further into the morning, I think we're going to see a lot more traffic than what we usually do as we go through for the Black Friday shopping holiday today. All right, into the afternoon we go. Still most of us into the 30s by noon, but we all will eventually, at least briefly, reach highs into the low 40s before temperatures will turn around and start to cool down later this evening. However, take a look by 8. Winds out of the south start increasing a bit for us, and that's going to ultimately slow down the temperature drop and keep us just that much warmer overnight than where we are right now. And where we are right now, again, is cold. 23 in Joplin, 23 in Pittsburgh, and around the region, well, if you guessed we were in the 20s, you would be correct. We are sitting into the low, mid, and a few somewhat upper 20s, if you want to call 26 upper 20s. But either way, it is a cold start to the day. Thankfully, winds light and variable. Most of us, again, making the low 40s today. Clear skies out there as we head through the evening. Clouds begin to increase overnight. Winds increasing. Temperatures up a little tomorrow as well. We'll have a full look at your forecast here in just a moment, as well as birthdays and anniversaries. But first, here's what's happening on CBS Mornings.
I'm Vladimir Jutip. Coming up on CBS Mornings for Thanksgiving, Steve Hartman and his kids give us a Kindness 101 lesson in gratitude. And CBS Sports' Jonathan Jones will be here to get us ready for a full day of NFL football. That's coming up on CBS Mornings.
All right, time for those Friday birthdays. And we're going to start with Madison Miller, celebrating birthday number 14. It says here, Mama loves you.
Well, isn't that special? And we have a pretty big special anniversary. Terry and Michelle Hildebrand out of Chautauqua, Kansas are celebrating their 56th anniversary.
And we've also got Retha Schultz in Columbus celebrating another year wiser.
And we can't forget Dale Ligon out of Iola. He's also celebrating his birthday. Now, we want to be able to celebrate more than just 4 birthdays at a time, so please make sure you submit those to us. You can send those birthdays and anniversaries to us at birthdays@KOAMnewsnow.com. Just be sure to pay attention to that deadline on your screen, so that way we can make sure they get on here so we can all celebrate with you.
Absolutely, and if you are heading out to do your morning commute today, hold on, I can't see. I'm looking for something, I can't see it. Okay, now I'm good. I don't have the right screen up over here, and I couldn't tell what I was doing. Now I know what I'm doing, and we're going to talk a little bit about this forecast. We're going to start, though, with a tour around the area with some different cameras out there. Some are ours, some are not. This is our camera, downtown Pittsburgh. Sun is rising, looks fantastic. Temperatures, again, a bit on the cold side. We'll get to those in a moment. 7th and Rangeline in Joplin. You can see we've got some cars out there. Most of the folks right now are in the parking lots of the stores, but traffic still continuing to increase. MoDOT camera 20th and Rangeline, there they are. Starting to see a few more of them getting that Black Friday shopping started. And I would be willing to suspect some folks probably are waiting until it gets a pinch warmer. Unfortunately, if you're going to wait for nice warm weather today, you're going to be waiting for a while. Because it is not going to be nice and warm today. MoDOT camera 32nd and Rangeline in Joplin, looking good as well this morning. Now we'll head over to the future track. And on the future track today, we're going to have light and variable winds. But as you can see by noon, take a look. Our southern counties into the low 40s. Majority of us, though, still hanging out in the 30s. In fact, I do believe we're going to spend about 80 to 85% of this day hanging out in the 30s. We'll all eventually reach highs in the low 40s, but for some of our northern counties, those temperatures getting up to 41, maybe 42, it won't last very long. Temperatures are going to start to come back down on the other side, and we'll be falling through the 30s. Now, overnight tonight, winds are going to increase out of the south, gusting upwards of 20. Clouds begin to increase as well. We're going to be partly cloudy to mostly cloudy as we start our Saturday. We won't really notice a difference with warmer air, but what it will do is it slows down the temperature drop tonight. So we're looking to fall back to about 30. So again, it's not going to be like very warm air, but it does stop us from getting too cold. Now, yeah, I see that. I know you see it too. You're like, oh boy, that's snow. We haven't seen that on this thing in a while. Well, that's it. But here's what I want to tell you about it. First off, we have a slight chance of some isolated showers in our very far northern counties. You can see on future track cities that we have mapped out here immediately south of that snow are already above freezing by 9 a.m. tomorrow. Odds are anything we see should be rain, not necessarily snow. But even if it was, it is A, going to be very confined, and B, it shouldn't add up to much of anything out there. But just a heads up, it will be there. Winds tomorrow still gusting initially out of the south upwards of 30 miles an hour, but then they'll shift out of the north as we go later into the afternoon and evening. And we're going to have another cold night Saturday into Sunday, temperatures falling back into the 20s. We'll start our Sunday mostly cloudy, and then we'll go partly cloudy through the morning and start clearing out. But we'll have Sunday similar to today, but I think we might make it into the 40s for a wee bit longer on Sunday than what we're expected to as we head into this afternoon. Speaking of temperatures, again, it is cold this morning, 23 in Joplin. And again, thankfully the winds are calm or at least light and variable. No major wind chills to concern ourselves with. But we are all in the 20s this morning. We've got low, mid-20s, a couple of upper 20s if you count 26 as upper. Why not? And makes it seem warmer, right? But we're all cold and into the 20s this morning. As we head into the morning hours, cold to start again, mid-20s out there, clear skies, upper 30s by 11 o'clock this morning. Again, ahead of those highs, pushing eventually, briefly, into the low 40s. We're going to have another look at your forecast, talk about a big warm-up on the way next week, and, of course, the news you need to know. And when we switch over to Fox 14 at 7 a.m., we're to see how an artist in Maine finds a new use for old lobster ropes.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Pittsburgh police investigate a homicide Wednesday night. Officers found 29-year-old Fedor Lee Warren Lomax suffering from gunshot wounds. He was taken to Mercy Hospital, where he later died. Officers tracked 26-year-old Kevin Holkill to a home, where he was arrested on an outstanding warrant. He's now facing second-degree murder charges, felony interference with law enforcement, and felon in possession of a firearm. Authorities respond to an overturned truck on Interstate 49 Wednesday morning in Lamar, Missouri. The crash involved an overturned cement mixer. Initially, both lanes were blocked as cement had to be washed from the road. Troopers say the female driver was alert and communicating. On Wednesday afternoon, authorities responded to reports of a crash near Douglas Fir Road in Newton County, Missouri. Authorities arrived to find a car flipped over on its roof, laying in a runoff creek. The driver was the only one in the car and was not injured. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
And as you head out the door, it is cold this morning and chilly today. We'll be spending most of the day in the 30s, but eventually make highs briefly into the low 40s. Sunny skies and a light and variable wind. Start to see clouds increasing late this evening and overnight, going partly cloudy and falling back to about 30. South winds increasing as well, gusting upwards of 20. South winds continue to gust upwards of 30 tomorrow, maybe a stray shower or two in our very far northern counties. Highs near 50. And then the winds shift out of the north. We'll get cold again as we head into Sunday and Monday. We start warming up next week. Rain chances Thursday and next Sunday. And take a look at next Sunday. If this pattern holds, we're looking at temperatures first week of December or going into the second week of December there, near 70 degrees.
That's a lot.
That is wild.
Can't believe it. Well, just a reminder, there will be no KOAM news at noon today, sadly.
Unfortunately, there will not be, but your morning news does continue here on KOAM with CBS Mornings. President-elect Donald Trump has threatened Mexico with a 25% tariff that would be applied to goods shipped to the U.S. CBS Mornings is breaking down what that could mean for you.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. This morning, we'll learn how sage plays an important role in Native American culture.
Plus, we're going to have a few tips and tricks that'll help keep you from falling to charity scams this holiday season. Far too many of those start going around, and unfortunately, far too many folks do fall for those. So we'll have some of those tips and tricks so you can stay safe from those types of things. That's going to wrap it up for us for now, though. We will be back here Monday morning at 5 a.m.
Have a great rest of your morning.